So I just got a text asking me, should I start Golden Tate or should I start Jordan Matthews? I'm going to need more context. Is this a PPR league?
Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of InstantRiyaPlay. Thank you so much to all of you, like all two of you, who convinced me and encouraged me to record today's episode, regardless of the fact that I do not have a voice. I happened to lose my voice this weekend down in Jacksonville when I traveled down there to watch the Packers kick some Jaguar butt. Okay, so there was no butt kicking, or there was like mutual butt kicking. It was a very close game. It could have gone either way, but a win is a win. Today's episode is going to be really short and sweet, mainly because I have no clue what you lovely ladies and gentlemen want to hear from me. The intent would be to do one of these videos every Wednesday for you guys. We can talk fantasy football waiver wire pickup. We can talk about highlights and lowlights from the previous week's games. We can talk about my favorite flavor of cheesecake if that's what you're interested in. I'm just kidding, they're all my favorite. We'll just keep this episode very brief. I'll quickly review the scores from last week and then move on to my predictions for week 2. From there, I can take your suggestions on what to cover in the future. It's really up to you. Cool? Cool. So before we get into the predictions for week 2, let's quickly review the scores from week 1. Last Thursday was the NFL season opener. We had the Broncos defeating the Panthers 21-20. On Sunday, we had the Bengals over the Jets 23-22. The Ravens beat the Bills 13-7. Buccaneers over the Falcons 31-24. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the Packers managed to squeak out a win against the Jaguars in Jacksonville, 27-23. The Chiefs beat the Chargers 33-27. Seahawks over the Dolphins 12-10. In the Giants vs. Cowboys game, New York came out on top 20-19. The Lions beat the Colts 39-35. The Raiders beat the Saints 35-34. Eagles beat the Browns 29-10. The Vikings came out on top over the Titans 25-16, and the Texans beat the Bears 23-14. On Sunday night, the Patriots came out on top over the Cardinals 23-21, and that concludes Sunday's matchups. So through Sunday, there were 14 games. Of those 14 games, 8 of them were decided by 4 points or less. 2 of the not-so-close games were on Monday night. In a doubleheader, first we had the Pittsburgh Steelers beating the Redskins 38-16, and then the 49ers completely shut out the LA Rams 28-0. Okay, so let's get started with this week's picks. Starting off with Thursday Night Football this week, we have the New York Jets in Buffalo playing the Bills. I am going to have to go with the New York Jets. For Sunday, we have 8 noon games. Well, noon if you're in the central time zone. But for the noon games, I'm going to start with Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. This one's kind of a no-brainer for me. I'm going to have to go with the Steelers at home. This next one I struggled with a little bit. I kept going back and forth. I'm talking about Kansas City in Houston this Sunday at noon. I'm super impressed by Kansas City right now. I think that Spencer Ware is a huge addition to that run game. Plus, he's on 2 of my fantasy teams, so I think this game is going to be extremely close. And despite Houston having home field advantage, I think that Kansas City is going to come out on top. Next, we've got the Titans in Detroit playing the Lions. The Lions coming off of a win from last week. The Titans coming off of a loss against the Vikings. Now, it's very likely that the Titans will come in and put up a good fight, much like they did in the first part of the Vikings game this last week. However, I still see the Lions coming away with a W in week 2. The Miami Dolphins will be traveling to Foxborough this weekend. No major surprises here in my prediction. I believe that the New England Patriots will win that matchup. Sorry, Cleveland, but even at home, I don't think you're going to beat the Baltimore Ravens. I think you're coming away with a win on this one. Even though the 49ers were able to crush the hopes and dreams of the LA Rams last week, I don't think they're going to be able to do the same thing in Carolina against the Panthers. Panthers, you're coming out on top. This next pick, I have to admit, is a total coin flip for me. I'm going with Dallas over Washington. These next two teams both had games that were decided by 1 point last week, and I think this matchup will be just as close. But I'm going with the Giants over the Saints. Moving on to the late afternoon games for this Sunday, I'm predicting that the Denver Broncos will beat the Indianapolis Colts. Next up, Jacksonville is going to be making the trip to San Diego. I really, truly believe that Jacksonville is going to come fighting harder than ever after that loss against the Packers in the very last minute. They're going to be angry, and I think they're going to show the Chargers what's up. Jacksonville, you're coming out on top. I predict that the Cardinals will be stomping the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Arizona. Maybe one of my gutsier calls, but I do think that the Falcons just may have what it takes to beat the Raiders in Oakland this weekend. Moving on to Sunday night. Haters are going to say it's bias, and you know what? It probably is. Packers are coming out on top over the Vikings at the brand new stadium in Minneapolis. God, I really hope that one doesn't come back to bite me. Last but certainly not least, when it comes to the Monday night matchup for week 2, I just don't think that the Bears will be able to pull it off, even at Soldier Field. Eagles, I've got my money on you. So now I want to hear from you guys. Which picks do you agree with? Which picks do you think I'm absolutely insane for making? And why? What do you want to hear next week's show? Like I said, I'd love to do one of these videos every Wednesday for you. Yes, I know it's technically Thursday right now. Please, please, please let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, requests. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next week. Okay, bye. Okay, bye. Okay, Dad. Bye. That was my dad.